Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Julio Capó, and let's queer up the USA view. Trump mocked trans people before Canada's PM, whose child is non-binary. President Donald Trump mocked transgender people in front of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, whose child identifies as non-binary. This happened during an Oval Office meeting that was meant to focus on trade relations, but instead turned into a display of Trump's culture war politics. The session, held in the presence of reporters, was supposed to highlight renewed U.S. Canada cooperation. But, as The Independent reported, it, quote, devolved into a political rally disguised as a routine press availability, end quote. Trump repeatedly veered off topic to attack Democrats, the media, and transgender people, boasting, quote, "We have strong borders, we have no men in women's sports, we're not going to take your child away and change the sex of your child," end quote. He continued, claiming Democrats had left America a dead country plagued by, quote, men playing in women's sports and transgender for everybody and windmills all over the place, end quote. Carney, seated beside him, remained silent, a restraint reflecting the stakes of Canada's trade dependence on the United States. Carney and his wife, economist Diana Fox Carney, have 4 children, including Sasha, a Yale graduate profiled in 2019 for using they-them pronouns and embracing non-binary identity. Trump's continued targeting of transgender people remains a central theme of his political brand. This is so rough, and I have to say this is just part of the political theater that he, does time and time again, right? And part of the embarrassment is to, part of the appeal to him is to embarrass these, political figures, right? In this case, Carney just has to sit there and listen because he knows what's at stake, and this is so hard because this is neither here nor there, but it just takes me to this. 2 weekends ago, my team participated in the Gay Softball World Series, which, by the way, we won. Out of 57 teams, the Fort Lauderdale team won. Whoosh, we love you. Whoosh team is amazing. Thank you for taking me on and for letting me play. But one of the things that happened is that so many Canadian teams that this league has existed for 50 years, and a lot of Canadian teams boycotted this year, right? Which is not unusual, as we're seeing happen all over the spectrum in terms of industry, and it was hard. It hurt. I have so many friends who play in Toronto, for example, who were dying to come, but they wanted to stand strong in this kind of a statement of political solidarity, because things like this they affect so many of us, right? The amount of times that they just kind of use this transgender boogeyman to just attack our humanity, and it's of course just political theater, and it just bothers me to no end.
He is never embarrassed by his atrocious behavior, his atrocious commentary, and the people that are around him. You watch the faces as they have to sit there stonewall, no matter what their positions are on the various topics. But it's a constant what's coming out of this man's mouth next, and nobody ever knows. And for me, I'm sickened by it. I'm sickened by it because he hurts a lot of very good people, and it's just what happens.
I hear you. On the one hand, Trump's comments are disgusting and also show a mental decline. He does not look healthy. I'm very well known of saying I thought Joe Biden was way too old to maintain the Oval Office. Trump looks even worse. But, on the other hand, Canada and a lot of other European countries, they've lived under this lie that they are partners with the United States and they're actually vassal states of the American empire, and, I hear Canadians, they get upset. I'm like, you guys have not minded the U.S. committing war crimes that have helped enrich your nation along with our nation. You've never minded that one bit. And to see the Prime Minister be like, I'm going to stand up to Trump, and then when he meets him, absolute silence. I'm like, well, I'm glad you understand the relationship you've made with your neighbor. It's not something that I necessarily approve of, but that's the real politique of the world, and I'm glad that maybe finally the world will start waking up to this.
Well, you're right, but the distraction here is that all of these commentaries that he has are a distraction from the real issues that are at play. And there's much bigger issues that are facing this country than just the trans issue or the homosexual issue or women in sports or...
The percentages here are so tiny. I mean, it takes me to the moment where Zelensky had to just sit there right in front of him and just be like, and you apologize to us or whatever, or say you're thankful or whatever it was. Right. And it was just this uncomfortable level of just, this power trip that has
they hold the
essentially
cards.
they hold the cards, and it's exactly what you noted, right? It is about this, like, it is about the American empire and the
well, especially with Europe and Canada, where they really didn't realize the relationship, and like a lot of foreign commentators started like, oh, these countries, now that they know the U.S. isn't going to back them or is more likely to conquer them, like Trump's referred to Canada the 51st state, and like
and Greenland, and Greenland.
These countries. They've all been flat-footed. They have not in any way attempted to become more independent, try and come up with like a new form of a new type of NATO without the United States.
Actually, there's new alliances that are being formed now with Canada and Europe, bypassing the United States, which aren't going to be very good for our country.
If Canada bypassed the United States, it would be conquered in a day. I really do mean that. You know, like, look at what we've been doing to Cuba for 80 years because they don't play ball with us. Do you think Canada would be treated better? But like, to get
Canada
back
speaks English.
That helps, but like the biggest thing with Trump's issues to remember is, yes, he says these inflammatory things, but he's not coherent anymore. Yes, he says they're the first things that spark in his brain at this point.
Well, Pritzker yesterday said he has dementia.
It really does look like it.
Well, I want to make sure we also that we stand with our trans brothers and sisters and folks generally, and Canada in this case, right? That it's an act of bullying, and that in whatever space this is, whether diplomatic and foreign affairs, it's unacceptable, and this is not how politics is run.
Remember, beyond this, our history is being erased.
100%.
Taken out of books, as well as African American history, Latino history, women. Yeah. It's not fair. It's not right. It's a new world that we're living in, and I hope people realize that unless they stand up, there's a lot worse things coming down the road.
Well said. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.